9:30 on the dot. Let's get started. Welcome to BlueSync on this Thursday, June 4th, 2026. We are going to be discussing Schmidtelligence again and the amazing assets that are being created for all of our agents' listings, whether it is an announcement flyer, a two-page flyer, a social media post, a postcard, whatever it might be. All of these assets are being created behind the scenes for every single listing that we have, except for commercial, because the listing database does run through Moxie, and we all know that Moxie does not distribute commercial properties. So we do have all of our assets being created in the background. We did have a little bit of an issue with the emails going out. We were being capped on the size, and because we attached some of those PDFs, it was kind of blacklisting us, if you will. But we have since fixed that issue. And even if the agent doesn't receive the email, their assets are being created and putting in their asset folder. So they can always go there within 24 hours of listing and get their assets if they are not getting that email. Or of course, you as staff have access to all of the completed assets folders so that you guys can get those for your agents also. So we're going to start as we usually do in Schmidt Resources. So I just want to show you where the FAQ can be found. So if you go over to the technology square here at the end, you'll see that second in, we have our Schmidtelligence square. And then we do have the link to our FAQ. We also have a link to our online order forms. So if your agent gets the email, they're like, wow, that flyer is fantastic. I want to print 10 of them because I have an open house this weekend. They can order that from the marketing group. Of course, they can print those right in your offices because the PDF is provided to the agent. So if they are on a Friday afternoon and forgot they were having an open house the next day, of course, those assets can be printed right in our offices on our color printers. But they can order those assets from the marketing group as well. And then in that same square, we still have our AI generated text features, whether they're looking for a property description or they're looking for an agent bio. Those options are in the Schmidtelligence square as well. So when we launch into the FAQ, we want to make sure that when agents come on board and they have questions, of course they will. It's a new program for them if they're new, or perhaps they're newer and they just got their first listing. They'll just have gotten their first Schmidtelligence email. Again, this is all driven off our listings and the assets created to market those listings. So you'll see it gives a quick explanation of what Schmidtelligence is. It'll explain that we do give them two versions of every flyer. They get the one directly from the MLS with those comments, but Schmidtelligence is also written to create AI descriptions that will make the descriptions fit into the description box better. So perhaps it's 500 characters in the MLS, but the listing asset flyer will only accept 250. The system is trained to rewrite that description so it fits into that box in the most user-friendly way. And then it does talk about updates. So if the photos are being rearranged in the MLS, or if there's an open house added, a price reduction, or if the property goes under contract or sold, all of those status updates are being fed through the system in order to generate new and updated assets. So if your agent has a price change on a Tuesday, it goes over into the MLS, filters through to Moxie, and then Schmidtelligence creates those new assets with the new price attached to it and the banner that it says price reduced. The system does check for as many times as the MLS feeds out. Across all of our different MLSs, the timing is a little bit different on each one, but as soon as that change gets to Moxie, that's the catalyst to create the Schmidtelligence assets. And I'll show you here in a minute how I can actually manually repull assets if something does go wrong in the system. So again, the emails should be going out to the agents. Now we have found that if agents are utilizing their own Gmail or their own AOL or their own Yahoo, sometimes we are having deliverability issues. If they're operating within the Schmidt Workplace emails, CB Great Lakes, CB Schmidt Ohio, CB Sunstar, those are having a better deliverability rate. Sometimes emails, like particularly if an agent lists 3 properties in one day, they're going to get 3 Schmidtelligence emails. Some systems are trained to spam those because they think it is spam because it's 3 different emails coming from the same address consecutively. So if your agents are missing an email, encourage them to check their spam first and then reach out if they're still missing that so we can make sure that the system is operating correctly. Now, we've also had an issue with the forward. So if your agent has their CB Great Lakes email in Moxie, so that's where they should be getting their assets, but they forward that out to an AOL, a Yahoo, a Hotmail, sometimes via that forward, the emails are going missing as well. So a couple different scenarios there. If the agents are missing emails, just reach out. We work that problem through with the dev team. Right here, can you kick off the assets themselves, the agents? Their trick is to change something in MLS, rearrange your photos, change some verbiage. Obviously, if there's a price reduction or open house, we do have the new tool that I have access to. So if you guys hear they need new assets, you just shoot me a quick note and I can regenerate those from the back end. As of right now, there is only one admin seat on that tool. So I do have to generate those, but it only takes a quick second. So shoot those over to me in an email or GChat and we'll get those assets regenerated. So you'll see just lots of good questions are answered here. I do want to point out, and it came up thanks to Brenda on the sales call yesterday, the order of the photos are directly sent from the MLS. So if your agent has 15 photos of the outside of the house, that's what's going to populate their flyers, their postcards, and their social media posts. So much like we have online about 2 seconds to get people's attention, we want to make sure that those photos in the MLS are in a thoughtful order. You know, what are the 5 best things about this house? Typically the exterior, not always. If it's a condo or something else, not always an exterior, but typically one really beautiful photo of the exterior. And then what's the next feature? Is it the kitchen? Is it the pool room? Is it the basement that's fully finished man cave? What are the best assets of that house? Because when consumers are clicking online, which we know our websites are also fed from the MLS, they're only going to be clicking for a few quick seconds and they're going to be moving on. They're not going to sit there and click through 15 photos of the exterior of the property. So don't think of it of having to rearrange the MLS just for Schmidtelligence. It really is the most thoughtful way to market the property. Have the first 5 to 10 photos be the best assets of the house. And then you can go through the typical walkthrough. You know, here's the front entryway foyer, the dens to the right, the kitchens to the left, go through all the bedrooms. But make sure those first 5 to 10 are really the best assets of the house. Not only are they generating the assets for Schmidtelligence, but they're also populating our websites, whether it's CB Great Lakes, ColdwellBanker.com, CB Schmidt, Ohio, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com. All the websites are syndicated from the same order that are in the MLS. So it does make sense to have a thoughtful order, not only for Schmidtelligence, but everything else as well. So you'll see here that if you go through the Q&As, lots of good different tips and tricks. So make sure that you point those out for your agents so that they can have their answers right away. And now we're going to go ahead and go over to the completed assets folder. So this is available to all of the ASCs so that you guys can get into any of your agents' asset folders that you need to. It can be great when they first get the listing. Maybe you go down and pull the social media post for them and just shoot them a quick email being like, hey, I don't know if you saw this. Just wanted to let you know this was created for you. You heard Jason speak to that yesterday on our sales call. So your asset folders that you're seeing on my screen here are exactly what you guys have access to as well. Now, if you're newer to the family call and you don't have that link, reach out to your lead or your RSC or to Lynn or myself, and we'll provide you that link. Now, you will notice agent names in here that are no longer with our firm. Current state that we have in the program is we are not able to delete these folders. Part of that's a safety feature. We don't want people deleting folders for those assets that still need to be utilized, but we are working with the dev team for the ability to have the administrative staff be able to delete old folders. Something else you'll notice, if you recall a training just a few weeks ago, we talked about our team assets and how Schmidtelligence now has team capabilities. So you'll see sometimes you'll have folders for agents prior to the team being set up and then after. So for example, Marquette, Michigan, I don't know if Trisha's on, but hi Trisha if you are. 906 Real Estate, here is Craig Heinenen's team, but you'll see if you scroll down to the C's, and this is alpha by first name, that you will also see a Craig Heinenen folder. So those assets were created before the team was built out in Moxie, because again, Moxie is our source of data here. So those teams do have to be put into Moxie in order to generate those team assets. And I'll show you that trick here in a minute, just in case you either missed that training prior, or like I said, you are new to the call, or maybe you were in an office without teams before and now you have a team. So you'll see here that there is a Craig Heinenen folder. Now, if there was an asset created prior to the team in Moxie and they want the assets to be built out for the team, then all you have to do is reach out. I can regenerate those assets, and then they'll be sent to the agent with the team branding. So we'll just go ahead and open the 906 real estate group. We'll go into that first address. So here's that difference. We mentioned every asset's created twice. So the first set, alphabetical order, makes sense, right? AI starts with an A. So all of the AI assets are here, and then it goes into the assets generated directly from the MLS comments without having any updates. Obviously, if there's not an open house, the open house folder will be empty. And this listing leads, it was good in theory and it never panned out. So that folder is always empty. We're trying to get that removed just so that it's not white noise for the agents, but nothing's broken here. It just was an asset we thought we could create that did not work. So we scratched that. The folder's still there. We're going to get that removed from all the folders so your agents don't have to see that. So for example, if their agents are looking for a one pager, maybe they want to put it up on social media, maybe they want to print it out, maybe they're running out for a showing. They click into announcements and they'll see that you have the JPEG and a PDF. Obviously the PDF is going to be easier to print in Office. JPEG needs to be used for social media. You cannot post the PDFs on social media. So that's why there's two different versions here. So when you click on this just to view, whoops, didn't mean to zoom in quite so far. You'll see that this particular one does have 4 photos and it is photo 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the MLS. So that's how the photos are being fed. You'll see that it's the gorgeous picture of the outside of the house, and then it looks like we have a few different ones of the kitchen. So if the agent wanted the kitchen, maybe that really cool pole barn, and maybe the backyard, because that's the best assets, they would just need to rearrange those in the MLS, and then that would populate. So you'll see because this is newly listed, it does have just listed at the top. And because this is a team asset, it has the team photo, the team name, and the team contact information. Now, I do see that there are no spacings in that phone number. That's directly being fed from Moxie, and I'll show you here in a minute on how you can get that updated. So that just happens to be the just listed version. Here's the newly listed version. Same flyer, just depending. Every agent likes that header to be a little bit different. So depending on what their preferences are, that's what that's going to read at. So when you come into the listing flyers, you'll see the same options, JPEG or PDF. And then this particular one, you'll see it has the first 3 photos of the house, and then it does have a 2-pager with more photos, comments, always branded to the agent, also always branded with your DBA and your office address. Let me go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, that one. Not share. Let me go ahead. Share this tab. There we go. There's that 2-pager. So you'll see this particular one has 3 photos on the front page, a little bit of the information about the house. And then as you scroll, it does bring in more photos and that description here. So this is our 2-pager. When you go back into open up the other version, you'll see this is much the same. It has the photos. They are in a little bit of a different order. This particular flyer does give the agents an opportunity to have different photos that are fed over from the MLS in a slightly different format. And that is just because if they are on the fly and they forgot and put 10 photos of the front of the house as the first 10, they do have another option to get to if they so need to. And then you'll see that this is the 2-pager. It has that description at the top and then just many more photos here. So again, this completed asset folder is available to you. Now, if you are much like me and you keep that tab open in your browser, you do need to do a refresh. So say that I see Sherry, because you have your hand up, I'll get to you in just a minute. So say Sherry had her agent, Chris Hughes, come to her and said, hey, I put this in MLS yesterday. I don't know if I got the email or not. I didn't have time to look. Could you just pull this asset for me? If she's had this open in her screen, she's going to want to just refresh the browser first, because if it's sitting there stagnant, you won't necessarily see the new assets coming into the folder. It'll look like they weren't created. Once you click that refresh, go back into Chris's folder, those assets should populate. Sherry, did you have a question?
Just a couple of comments. One, when new assets do come in, it's important to look at the date modified. So that is an easy way to explain it to an agent, because I was helping one and we changed, I think, or it came back on the market and I think maybe changed the price. So it's really good to look at the date modified so that you can tell what the most current one is, obviously after you refresh of what Carrie just said. But then secondly, I like the view that you have it in, Carrie, versus the icons, because when you have it in this view, you can see the whole, you can't, this view, you can see all of the different types of assets and how it spells it all out. But if you have it in the icon view, you can't see if they're mailers or what they are. So it's sometimes easier, I think, to have an agent tell them to use the other view so that they can see if it's a mailer and they're not going in and out of a million different folders and stuff.
Yes, thank you for that. That's a very good point. I am very much a list person, both in Google and Drive and Finder, everything. I'm just a list person. It's my view. But that's a great point. You'll see how I was toggling in the upper right here. This is what she's mentioning. You can only see the address. You can't see if it's a mailer, a flyer, or whatnot. So if you encourage the agents to click on that, then it fully spells it out. So you're like, oh, I want postcards. I'm going to go into mailers. There's my just listed. Yep, that looks great. I'm going to shoot that off to the marketing group and order my postcards, or I'm going to shoot it off to the local printer and order my whatever that step might be. You'll see that you have that option. So thank you, Sherry. That's a great point. I appreciate that. So again, I know it's a little bit annoying. As of right now, it's all agents in the list. We don't have a way to regionalize this just yet, but we are working on some of those upgrades. And as soon as we are able to launch those, of course, we'll keep everybody updated. You can share links, Desiree. So the question was, is there a way to make a subfolder or something like that of just the agents in your office? So you do have the opportunity to save a shortcut, I believe, when you click organize. Okay, so let me go back so I don't just jump into the midstream here. So say that you wanted this particular agent, and Leon, she's in your office, so you want to move that link. You're not going to actually move it, but you are going to create a link so that you can get back to it. So 3 little dots, organize, add shortcut. This will allow you to add a shortcut into your own drive. So the data itself is still maintained in the completed assets folder, but you're sharing a link. So think of it almost like a bookmark on a web browser. You can add a shortcut. I'm not sharing this tab, am I? Okay, sorry about that. Here we go, back to completed assets. This particular agent, 3 little dots next to their name, organize, and then add shortcut. And then you'll see that you can add that shortcut into your drive. So you can go into your drive and maybe do a Schmidtelligence folder, and then you can add those shortcuts. Same concept though, if you're keeping that tab open as the shortcut, the assets will populate, but you want to make sure you do a browser refresh to make sure you're getting the most current content. But you absolutely can add those shortcuts into your own drive. Risa, we don't have a QR code on these particular flyers yet. If you have Adobe Pro in your office, or if you have some of the Canva, you can pull in a Schmidt resource into Canva and add a QR code to it. We don't have it built out into the system automatically yet, but you do have a few different ways you can manipulate those flyers if you do want to add the QR code. So great question there. All right, let me go ahead and close some of these asset tabs that I have open. So now I just kind of want to show you this admin tool. Again, right now we only have 1 seat, so it is me regenerating these, but again, it just takes 2 seconds. The pro tip here is to send me the MLS ID. You can send me the address, but then I have to look that up and get the MLS ID, because to regenerate our assets, I do need that MLS ID number. So basically what I do is put the MLS ID into here, click generate assets, and then it's going to tell me if yes it is or no it's not. The only time I've ever popped a no is if the photos didn't feed correctly. And that sometimes happens, right? You put them in the MLS, they have to feed to Moxie. Schmidtelligence is not going to create assets unless there's 10 or more photos. So if less than 10 photos fed over, or it's vacant land and they have less than 10 photos, the assets will not create. So it needs to have 10 or more photos. So if you're looking for assets, or your agents are and they aren't in there, shoot me that MLS ID. I pop it into that box and click generate assets. From what I can tell, it's within 15 minutes is usually when we have those updated assets. So that is our admin tool. This is also going to future state allow us to clean up some of those old folders of agents that have left. And it's also going to start giving us some analytics so we can really start tracking some usage. So it's a pretty cool new app that's being created by the dev team in order to give us a little bit more visibility into the system. Now, just to wrap things up, because I did mention, if you remember on Craig's, his phone number was kind of all together. It didn't have dots or dashes or anything in it. That is all fed over from Moxie. So in Desk, you want to find your MoxieWorks tab and then pull open your MoxieWorks. And because we know all of this data feeds via our account tech/dash feed, the agent information, if their email is incorrect or their phone number is incorrect, that has to be entered into account tech to feed through. If it's a team wanting to be updated, that data source is Moxie. That can be done directly in Moxie. So agent changes, individual agents, account tech to dash to Moxie. That will update Schmidtelligence. For teams, it is directly in Moxie. So you come into your ASC Moxie account and you want to go to Management Tools, Agent Teams. And then if you're not seeing the team that you want to create, you want to make sure you click into all teams, because maybe you job share or maybe you're newer, so it was somebody else that created the team. So if you're not seeing it and you know darn well there's a team, click on all teams. Now you'll see all the Michigan teams that have been built out here. If you need to update that phone number, don't delete it. Double click on the team photo and it's going to pull open their account. And so you'll see that the phone number is here. That's the email address. Team photo here. To edit that, you click the pencil. And then you can come in here, whether your agent prefers dots, some prefer dashes, some prefer parentheses and a dash, just depending on what the agent preference is. Make sure I didn't do that wrong. And then once you click save, all net new assets created will now have the phone number that appears with those dots in it, where before it was just all kind of ran together. So when you're editing these teams or creating the teams, want to make sure that that information is going to be marketing friendly on the output of the assets. So to go back, Management Tools, Agent Teams, all teams, find the team you want to edit, double click on their photo. This particular team doesn't have any of that info, so you would click pencil and then you would fill that in. Now, you don't want to create a team if the agents don't want to mark it as a team. So say Sherry and I are on, Women Sell Real Estate team, but Sherry has her own listings. I have my own listings. I want my headshot on mine. She wants her headshot on hers. We don't really mark it as a team. Don't put them in Moxie, because the system will read it as a team and it'll create the team assets. But, we have Women Sell Real Estate. We have a group headshot. We have a phone number that's shared. We have an email address that's shared. We want to mark it as a team. That's when you add the team into Moxie. That's when Schmidtelligence takes over. They'll create those assets as the team. It'll have the team photo, the team phone number, and the team email address. So it is driven by the agent, how they want to do that. Current state, we can't have both. We can't have Sherry have her own listing and the team assets. The system doesn't know how to discern that yet. Of course, technology changes daily, if not hourly or by the minute. So I'm sure there will be an opportunity in the future. But current state is it's either an individual or a team. It can't be both currently. But again, it is driven by the agent because it is driven by Moxie. So we have the ability to update those as the agent requests those. So I'm going to go ahead and pause, double check my questions. So if there's any further questions, please feel free to type them in the chat or unmute. Again, best thing that you guys can do is just talk about this to your agents. When new listings go in, you're either tracking your hot sheets or you're helping them put them into the MLS. So don't hesitate to just pop into the asset folder, maybe pull down, maybe they're big on Facebook. So send them the social media post, say, hey, just I don't know if you knew this was created, because I guarantee they're going to read an email from you, their ASC, before they're going to read an email from Schmidtelligence at Schmidt HQ. So we certainly appreciate your assistance in helping our agents market their listings via our Schmidtelligence assets. If you have any questions after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, everyone.